The moment happened so fast that most fans in the stadium missed it entirely. Roger Federer was making his way through the crowd at the Miami Open, greeting players, soaking in the adoration that has followed him his entire career. He hugged Coco Gauff, he shared a laugh with Jessica Pegula, and then he spotted Alex Eala. The 20-year-old Filipina was standing near the players' entrance, a shy smile on her face, looking for all the world like a fan who couldn't believe she was in the same room as her idol. What happened next was captured by only one camera. Federer walked up to Eala, wrapped his arms around her, and then, in a gesture that stunned everyone who saw it, kissed her on the forehead. It was brief, almost paternal, deeply affectionate. But what the cameras caught next was even more extraordinary. Standing just a few feet away, Aryna Sabalenka, the world #1, the defending Miami Open champion, the woman who had been waiting for her own moment with Federer, froze. Her face shifted from anticipation to disbelief to something that looked, to those watching closely, like pure shock. In that split second, a rivalry was born that no one saw coming.
The buzz had been building for weeks. Roger Federer, the 20-time Grand Slam champion, the most beloved player in tennis history, was coming to the Miami Open. It would be his first appearance at a major tournament in nearly 2 years, and the tennis world was electric with anticipation. For the players, it was more than just a celebrity sighting. Federer had been a fixture in their lives since they were children. The graceful Swiss who made impossible shots look effortless, the gentleman who carried himself with a dignity that transcended sport. To meet him was to touch history. To be acknowledged by him was validation beyond any ranking point. Federer arrived at Hard Rock Stadium on the morning of the semifinals, his schedule carefully coordinated by tournament officials who knew that his presence would draw as much attention as the matches themselves. He moved through the grounds with the ease of a man who had spent 2 decades being the center of attention, stopping to sign autographs, pose for photos, exchange words with players he had watched from retirement. Coco Gauff was the first to reach him. The 22-year-old American, who had grown up idolizing Federer, rushed over with the enthusiasm of a child meeting her hero. Their embrace was warm, genuine, captured by every camera in the vicinity. Jessica Pegula followed, then Madison Keys, then a stream of players who had spent their careers chasing the shadow he had cast. But there was one player Federer was looking for. Alex Eala stood near the players' entrance, slightly apart from the crowd. She was not the type to push forward, to demand attention, to insert herself into a moment. At 20 years old, she had already learned that the spotlight found you when it was meant to, and today it was finding her. Her connection to Federer was not the casual admiration of a fan. It was deeper, older, more meaningful. When Federer announced his retirement in 2022, a 17-year-old Eala had been among the many who expressed their sadness, but her words carried a weight that distinguished her from the chorus. "I was super sad to wake up to this news. As we all know, he's such an icon in this sport," she had said at the time, just days after winning the US Open Junior title. But it was what she said next that revealed the depth of her admiration. "The thing I admire the most about Roger is his grace on court and off the court as well. His composure and just how he carries himself and the image he's built up over the years." Those words had found their way to Federer. They were the kind of words that resonated with him, not about his titles, not about his records, but about the way he had carried himself through 2 decades of glory and disappointment. A young player who understood that grace was as important as greatness. Federer had been following Eala's journey ever since. He had visited the Rafa Nadal Academy in Mallorca in 2024, where Eala was training, and again in 2025, watching her progress from promising junior to professional contender. He had seen her upset Iga Świątek at the 2025 Miami Open, had watched her climb into the top 30, had observed the way she handled the pressure of representing 115 million Filipinos with a smile that never wavered. Paul Annacone had put it best when asked about Eala earlier in the year.
"She's got a smile that lights up a room," Annacone said on Tennis Channel. "I remember last year when she beat Iga Swiatek, and she kind of did it with a lot of grace and humility. For me, it was terrific to see her take that match and watch her play after that." Federer had heard those words. He had seen the same qualities Annacone described, and now, standing in the Miami sunshine, he was looking for the player who reminded him of what he had always tried to be. When their eyes met, Eala's face broke into the smile that Annacone had described. It was not the practiced smile of someone used to cameras. It was the genuine expression of a young woman who, despite everything she had achieved, still could not believe she was in the same space as her idol. Federer walked toward her, and the crowd parted as if by instinct. The embrace lasted only a few seconds, but in those seconds, the world seemed to pause. Federer wrapped his arms around the 20-year-old Filipina, his smile wide, his eyes bright with genuine pleasure. Eala, for her part, looked like she might cry. When they pulled apart, Federer said something that made her laugh, words that would later be revealed as a joke about her forehand, a playful acknowledgement of the shots he had watched her hit. And then, in a gesture that stunned everyone who saw it, he leaned down and kissed her on the forehead. It was brief, almost paternal, deeply affectionate, the kind of gesture a father might give a daughter, a mentor might give a protege, a legend might give to the future of the sport. The photographer, positioned at the perfect angle, captured everything. The image would later become iconic. Federer leaning down, his lips pressed gently against Eala's forehead, her eyes closed, a smile spreading across her face. It was the kind of photograph that transcended sports, a moment of pure, unguarded emotion between the greatest player in history and the young woman who had become the face of a nation. For Eala, the moment was validation beyond measure. She had grown up watching Federer and Nadal battle for supremacy, admiring both, but drawn to Federer's elegance. "The thing I admire the most about Roger is his grace on court and off the court as well," she had said in 2022. "His composure and just how he carries himself and the image he's built up over the years." Now that grace had been extended to her. The image he had built, the composure he had maintained, the legacy he had created, all of it was now being passed, in some small way, to the 20-year-old from the Philippines. For Federer, the gesture was a recognition of everything Eala represented, a nation of 115 million people finding its voice through sport, a diaspora scattered across the globe, finally seeing themselves reflected on the world's biggest stages, a young woman who, despite never winning a Grand Slam, had become the most beloved player in women's tennis. Paul Annacone had seen it coming. "The fan stuff is always fun to me because whenever you see players from smaller countries, the fans are so passionate when they get to the top," he had said. Federer had always understood that. He had spent his career being adored by millions. He knew what it meant to carry that weight. But what happened next was something no one had anticipated. To understand why Aryna Sabalenka's reaction to Federer's kiss was so visceral, you have to understand who she is beneath the world #1 ranking, beneath the 4 Grand Slam titles, beneath the aura of invincibility she carries onto every court. Aryna Sabalenka is a fangirl. She has admitted it openly, unabashedly, with the same fierce honesty she brings to her tennis. When Roger Federer sat in the stands during her first-round match at the Australian Open earlier this year, she didn't pretend to be above the moment. She saw him on the big screen, and her heart raced. "Yeah, I saw him there, saw him on the big screen," she said after that match, her voice still carrying the thrill of the encounter. "I was like, okay, I have to play my best tennis so he enjoys it. I have to show my skills, you know, slice skills, come to the net and all that stuff." She was being honest. The world #1, the most dominant player in women's tennis, was trying to impress Roger Federer. That moment at the 2024 US Open, when she admitted the same thing, had become part of her lore, the fierce competitor who still had heroes. Now, at the Australian Open, she was admitting it again. when Jelena Dokic informed her during the on-court interview that she could become the first player to reach 4 consecutive Australian Open finals since Martina Hingis, Sabalenka's mind wasn't on records. She turned to Federer, who was sitting courtside, and asked, "Did you do it?" Federer shrugged, laughing, unsure of his own streak. But Sabalenka wasn't really asking about history. She was reaching out to a legend, trying to connect, trying to be seen. After the match, she didn't rush to the locker room. Instead, she walked over to Federer and Rod Laver, her expression shifting from champion to fan. "Yeah, I'm a huge fan, guys. Can I take a picture with you, please?" she asked, her voice carrying a vulnerability that surprised some in the crowd. The selfie that followed was shared across the tennis world, Sabalenka beaming, Federer smiling, Laver looking on. It was a moment of pure joy for the Belarusian, a moment she would later describe as unbelievable. "I would never thought that Roger Federer and Rod Laver are going to be sitting first row watching my match," she said afterward, her words tumbling out with genuine excitement. "Yeah, that's unbelievable." Throughout that match, she admitted, she had been battling herself. "The whole match, I was just telling myself, do not look there, please do not look," she confessed. The pressure of performing in front of Federer was real, and she felt it acutely. When asked if her frequent trips to the net, 22 times in that match, were inspired by Federer's all-court game, her answer was immediate. "Yes, of course. I just wanted to impress Roger with my game," she said, laughing. "I just couldn't do tweener, but it's okay. Next time." This is the Sabalenka that the world rarely sees, the one who collects selfies with legends, the one who jokes about impressing Federer, the one who, despite everything she has achieved, still looks up to the players who came before her. But here's the thing about being a fangirl. When your hero doesn't see you, it hurts. At the Miami Open, Federer's visit was supposed to be a moment of connection. Sabalenka, who had just completed the Sunshine Double, winning both Indian Wells and Miami, becoming only the 5th woman in history to achieve that feat, was the star of the tournament. She had beaten Coco Gauff in a thrilling final that had the crowd on its feet, a match where she had to battle through her own frustrations, including a moment when she yelled, "Shut up," at a fan who interrupted her serve. She had apologized afterward, showing the same honesty that defines her. She was the champion. She was the world #1. She was the one who had made history. And yet, when Federer walked through the players' area, he walked past her. She saw him hug Coco Gauff. She saw him share a laugh with Jessica Pegula. She saw him scan the crowd, looking for someone. And then she saw his face light up when he found Alex Eala. Sabalenka had been waiting. Not pushing forward, not demanding attention, just waiting. She had learned from past encounters that sometimes you let the moment come to you. At the Australian Open, she had asked Federer for a selfie. She had made the first move. But here, in Miami, she wanted him to come to her. She wanted to be seen. When Federer kissed Eala on the forehead, the cameras caught Sabalenka's face. Her expression shifted from anticipation to disbelief to something that looked, to those watching closely, like pure shock. Her arms crossed, her jaw tightened, and for a moment, the champion, who had just completed one of the most remarkable runs in tennis history, looked like a fan who had been forgotten. The photograph that captured that moment would be analyzed for days. Some saw jealousy, others saw hurt. A few saw the face of a woman who had spent years earning her place, only to watch a player who had never won a major receive the adoration she felt she deserved. But Sabalenka, as always, said nothing. She walked away without speaking to Federer, without acknowledging the moment that had just unfolded. Her silence would become the subject of endless speculation in the days that followed. What no one knew, what the cameras didn't capture, was that Sabalenka had been waiting for this moment for years, not just for Federer's attention, though that was part of it, but for recognition. For someone to see that she was not just a powerful player, not just a world #1, but a fan too. A person who had heroes, who got nervous, who wanted to be loved the way she loved the sport. She had shown that vulnerability at the Australian Open, asking for that selfie, joking about trying to impress Federer. She had shown it in Miami, playing through her frustration, apologizing when she lost her temper. She had shown it every time she spoke about her engagement, her dog, her life outside tennis.
Aryna Sabalenka walked away from the scene without a word. Her jaw was set, her arms crossed, her face a carefully composed mask that betrayed nothing to the cameras that tracked her every move. She did not look back at Federer. She did not glance at Eala. She simply walked, her footsteps echoing in the tunnel beneath Hard Rock Stadium, leaving behind a moment that would be replayed thousands of times in the days to come. The image of Sabalenka walking away, the world #1, the defending Miami Open champion, the woman who had just completed the Sunshine Double, became the defining visual of the controversy. In it, she was not the fierce competitor who had just outlasted Coco Gauff in a 3-set final. She was not the 4-time Grand Slam champion who had won 23 of her 24 matches in 2026. She was something else entirely, a fan who had not been seen. To understand her silence, one had to understand what Federer represented to her. At the Australian Open just months earlier, Sabalenka had been open about her feelings. When she saw Federer and Laver sitting courtside for her first-round match, she admitted she could barely focus. "The whole match I was just telling myself, do not look there, please, do not look," she confessed afterward. She had wanted to impress him. She had wanted to show him her slice, her net game, the skills she had worked so hard to develop. "I just wanted to impress Roger with my game," she said, laughing about her failed attempt at a tweener. "I just couldn't do tweener, but it's okay, next time." And when the match was over, she had mustered the courage to approach him. She had asked, with the vulnerability of a teenager meeting her idol, for a selfie. "I'm a huge fan, guys. Can I take a picture with you, please?" she had asked, and Federer had obliged. That moment, the selfie with Federer and Laver, had been a highlight of her Australian Open campaign. She had shared it with the world, her smile wide, her excitement palpable. It was proof that even the world #1 could still be a fan. But in Miami, she had not approached Federer. She had waited. She had wanted him to come to her. She had wanted to be seen. And when he walked past her to embrace Alex Eala, when he kissed the Filipina on the forehead with a tenderness that spoke of genuine affection, Sabalenka realized that waiting had been a mistake. She had spent years earning her place at the top of the sport. She had won Grand Slams, completed the Sunshine Double, defended her Miami title. But in that moment, none of it mattered, because Roger Federer had not seen her. In the locker room, after the final, Sabalenka sat quietly. Her team knew better than to approach her immediately. The victory she had just achieved, becoming the 5th woman in tennis history to complete the Sunshine Double, joining Steffi Graf, Victoria Azarenka, Kim Clijsters, and Iga Swiatek, was monumental. But the sting of being overlooked lingered. Later, during the trophy ceremony, she put on her champion's face. She thanked the crowd, congratulated Coco Gauff, apologized for her outburst at a fan who had yelled during her serve. But those who knew her saw something different in her eyes. She was not just the world #1. She was a woman who had wanted her hero to see her, and he had not. When asked about the Federer moment in a brief interview afterward, Sabalenka deflected. "I'm focused on my tennis," she said. "That's what matters." But the words were flat, rehearsed. The spark that usually animated her was missing. For Eala, the kiss on the forehead was a validation beyond measure. She had grown up watching Federer and Nadal, admiring both but drawn to Federer's elegance. "The thing I admire the most about Roger is his grace on courts and off the court as well," she had said in 2022, shortly after his retirement announcement. "His composure and just how he carries himself and the image he's built up over the years." Now, that grace had been extended to her. The image he had built, the legacy he had created, all of it was now being passed in some small way to the 20-year-old from the Philippines. She had trained at the Rafa Nadal Academy, where Federer had visited multiple times, watching her progress, noting her development. She had been part of the Academy's golden generation, alongside Casper Ruud and Martin Landelus, that had proven the Academy's worth. The kiss was not a surprise to those who had been paying attention. Federer had been following Eala's journey since her U.S. Open Junior title in 2022, the same year he retired. He had visited the Rafa Nadal Academy in 2024 and again in 2025, making time to watch her train, to see her grow. When he returned to Miami, he had made it clear to tournament officials that he wanted to meet her. What he had not anticipated was the fallout. The image of Sabalenka walking away, arms crossed, face unreadable, had gone viral within hours. Commentators debated the meaning of her expression, fans took sides, and Federer, who had intended only a moment of kindness, found himself at the center of a controversy he had not sought. In the days that followed, Sabalenka's silence was deafening. She did not post about the incident on social media. She did not give interviews addressing it. She simply moved on, preparing for the clay season, for Madrid, for Rome, for Roland Garros. But those who knew her understood that the wound had not healed. It had simply been buried, waiting for the next time she stepped on court. For Eala, the kiss was a memory she would carry forever, but she too understood the complexity of the moment. She had not asked for Federer's attention. She had not sought to overshadow Sabalenka. She had simply been standing there when her idol approached, and now she found herself at the center of a drama she had never wanted. The Czech curse remained unbroken. Her ranking had dropped from number 29 to number 45 after her fourth-round loss to Karolina Muchova. The clay season stretched before her: Linz, Madrid, Rome, Roland Garros. But she carried with her something that no ranking could measure: the knowledge that Roger Federer had kissed her on the forehead, and that in doing so he had recognized her as the future of the sport. And somewhere, in a quiet moment away from the cameras, Aryna Sabalenka was already planning her revenge. Not against Eala. She bore no ill will toward the young Filipina, but against the narrative that had cast her as the overlooked champion. She would win more titles. She would break more records. She would prove, once and for all, that she was not just the world number one. She was the one who deserved to be seen. Aryna Sabalenka walked away from the scene without a word. The world number one, the defending Miami Open champion, the woman who had just completed the Sunshine Double, had waited for her hero to see her, and he had walked past. Roger Federer kissed Alex Eala on the forehead, and in that moment, a rivalry was born that no one saw coming. Sabalenka's silence in the days that followed spoke louder than any words could. She had been open about her admiration for Federer at the Australian Open, asking for a selfie, admitting she had been nervous playing in front of him. In Miami, she had wanted him to come to her. She wanted to be seen, and when he chose Eala, the hurt was visible. For Eala, the kiss was validation beyond measure. She had grown up watching Federer, admiring his grace, his composure, the image he had built. She had trained at the Rafa Nadal Academy, where Federer had visited multiple times. And now, in a moment captured by cameras around the world, he had recognized her as the future of the sport. The Czech curse remains unbroken. Her ranking has dropped from number 29 to number 45. The clay season stretches before her, but she carries with her something that no ranking can measure: the knowledge that Roger Federer believes in her. And Sabalenka, the champion who felt overlooked, will carry something else: the fire to prove that she is not just the world number one, but the one who deserves to be seen. Was Sabalenka right to be hurt by Federer's snub? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Subscribe to Rally Radar now for daily WTA news, match breakdowns, and stories that go beyond the scoreline. Because at Rally Radar, every day is match day.